Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review for part one of the three-parter, which is the final episode series collection three-part whatever thing of the original 90s Goosebumps TV show for me to review. I'm almost done with it. And I can't believe that. That's crazy. Not with the whole Goosebumps book reviews and everything else. I still have a lot of that, but the TV show, I've never seen the entire series all the way through until now. Not with this review, but for the next two that I'm going to be reviewing tonight, eventually I will have seen all of the Goosebumps episodes at this current point. It's a big weekend. Excuse me, a big weekend for that, for finishing the original classic 62-book series. Finished up with the review I just uploaded a moment ago. As long as, Stay Out of the Basement, along with the episode review of that. So, this is Chillogy on the DVD. In total, all three of the episodes are about an hour long, so each part is about 21 minutes, 20 minutes, somewhere in that ballpark. They have the Monster Blood 3 cover on this, from the original Monster Blood 3 book. Now, I have some interesting things to say. I'll start off with the basics that I typically use. Basically, Chillogy, Part 1 is Season 3, Episode 19. These were consecutively, back-to-back, so you had, let's see... Oh, okay, so each week there was a new one. So, like, Chillogy wasn't like the two-parters. Usually if you saw Not a Living Dummy 3 or Stay Out of the Basement, on one night they would have both episodes play, that two-parter, in total, one night. They wouldn't make you wait a week for the other half of the episode, which was great. I loved that. With Chillogy, all three parts were played 1 week spaced out in between each, and so that's already kind of different. Now, from what I understand, this was a little bit different because it's not based on anything. It's not based on any books from R.L. Stine. It's just kind of its own thing. I don't think Stine had any writing credits on this. And this kind of lost a lot of Goosebumps in it. Now, not that the entire TV series is perfect, not that any of them that are based on the books are perfect either, as adaptations or just anything in general as media. Many of them can be flawed. This particular episode, as I said, is Season 3, Episode 19. It premiered on April 25th, 1998. It starts out really strong, I'll be honest with you. And it really falls apart. It really falls apart. And it's kind of surprising for me to say that. All three episodes are directed by William Fruet, or Fruet. I'm not really sure how to say his name. Of course, he did Stay Out of the Basement, Part 1 and Part 2. Welcome to Dead House, Part 1 and Part 2. Attack of the Mutant. Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes. I listed a bunch of stuff in the the last TV review I did for Stay Out of the Basement, Part 1 and Part 2. He's done a ton of Goosebumps stuff. He's a very, very talented man. And it seems like this particular episode, they tried to give him a relatively solid budget. And you can already tell from the pacing of this, there's not so much they had to do as an adaptation from one of the books. There are certain books out there like Barking Ghost, or My Harry's Adventure. It feels like we're just kind of jumping super fast through details of stuff that don't really matter for an episode, that doesn't really matter about a book, that doesn't really matter. I'm getting kind of hoarse. I've talked so much today. So, this episode's actual title, aside from Chillogy Part 1, is called Squeal of Fortune. The actors and actresses in here, I don't really know any of them, but I've seen apparently a lot of the movies and stuff that many of them are involved with. That's kind of cool. The one lead girl that plays Jessica was in, like, Grey's Anatomy. Like, she was a big actress on there. She might even still be on there. I don't know. But, yeah, that's wild. She went a long way. Daniel Cash plays a very interesting character. He's in a lot of stuff, apparently, like Aliens, Diary of the Dead, which I've seen that as well. RoboCop's remake, Mama, which I always liked. Let's see... What else? Clarice. Lots of stuff, regardless. This guy was actually very solid in the episode. A little goofy for my taste, but pretty solid. What is this episode about? Well, number one, I'm fairly surprised with the very high ratings on IMDb. This thing has a 7.4 out of 10 stars, based on 603 reviews. Why? Why? I don't get that. As I said, I started out very interested in this because of the setup. The setup was really solid for this, and I wasn't sure at first if all three of the Chillogy episodes really connect to each other. Apparently they do not, from what my brief little glimpse at parts 2 and 3 on IMDb really kind of said. They may partially kind of tie into each other, but to kick this one off, we basically zoom into this weird-looking area, this kind of, if you've seen Bride of the Living Dummies episode, Do you remember Jimmy O. James, or whatever his name is, the ventriloquist? Do you remember his actual, like, lot where he lived, like, where he found Slappy in that, like, abandoned alleyway? It looks a lot like that. It might even be the same area. I don't know. It's been so long since I watched Bride. But it looks a lot like that area. And you can kind of hear, like, different voices and sound effects and stuff in the background while we're kind of going through different alleyways of this abandoned, dark city at nighttime. And one of them even sounds like Slappy. Anyway, we find this really greasy-looking dude. Like, he's got sweaty-looking. He's supposed to be plastic. And then we start zooming out, and we realize it's a little town miniature set inside of, like, an attic, right? Now, then we kind of cut over to our main character girl named Jessica, the one that became the actress who went on to Grey's Anatomy. And essentially, she is just kind of not really a scammer. She's a very interesting kid or teenager. She's essentially somebody who's very much into finances and saving money and whatever. That's a great thing. Don't get me wrong. It's kind of portrayed as like kind of a snobbish thing in the episode, which is a little odd. I get the idea of living, but be smart. You know, let's be a little smart here. Let's be a little realistic. The girl's got good goals that a lot of adults nowadays need to have, and a lot of the elderly don't have anymore. When I say elderly, I mean the people in current age that have been around for like the last whatever amount of years, 40, 50, and still have not learned to save a dime. So she's got a lot of life lessons that a lot of other people do not, and I don't think it's fair to push her as the bad guy in the episode. Anyway, she kind of becomes that, do some actions. Another motorcycle, time to break out another BB gun. Just a joke. Like I said in the Stay Out of the Basement review, just a joke. Just a joke. I don't shoot at people. So, this girl goes to a yard sale. She tries to scam a couple of guys in the neighborhood out of some supposedly very fortune-filled, whatever, some very valuable baseball cards. And when she does that, she gets them for very cheap. She goes home, puts them in a box. And as we look through her bookshelves and stuff, we see things like stock market stuff. Yes, a preteen is looking at the stock market and keeping track of that. When I saw that, I laughed out loud, but in a good way, in a charming way, the way the 90s always were charming for these kind of young genius types, for the different stereotypes we had on shows. And I want to say this as well. I actually think this girl tries to bring a really solid performance, and I understand why her career went far. She's one of those really solid actresses on the show. I think she did really solid here. Again, this is kind of a modest budget episode. Now, she is told by her mom to go up in the attic and sweep. And she kind of has like this Scrooge type of thing about her. Not so much an attitude, but really in like the financial part. Like she's trying to tell her brother who wants to borrow like $5 from her about saving money, gives him this big lecture about how he's not really focusing on that, doing the mathematics for him, a lot of stuff like that. Kind of sounds boring, right? It wasn't that bad. It was pretty fun, pretty cutesy for a 90s type of thing. I was curious where we were going with this. She goes up in the attic and starts sweeping the attic to get her allowance that her mom was going to give to her brother if she didn't do her chores. And as she's working up there, she bumps into something that apparently she's never seen, ever, which made no sense, but it's Goosebumps, whatever. She bumps into something and backs up and looks, and it's that town that we saw in the prologue to the episode. And she happens to see the little figure of the guy inside of there. I don't even remember the freaking name of the town. What was it called? It was like Carlstown? I think it was Carlstown, right? Right? Carlsville, that's what it was. Thank God for IMDb. If you're not able to pay attention to something that is very middle of the road and lackluster, IMDb is typically there for you in some way, fashion, or form. So Carlsville is what the name of this thing is, and she kind of wonders if it's worth money as well, so she could sell this. And she hears her phone ringing. She picks it up. It's not her phone. It's actually a phone booth in this Carlsville set that she's looking at in the attic. And she touches the phone booth and gets zapped into there. Yeah. She gets brought in, and even at this point, with the kind of repetitive nature we've seen of this kind of thing in tons of 90s properties, I was like, you know, this could still be solid. It is William Fruitt. And then we get kind of a moral lesson for about 15 minutes about this girl and greed, which is good. Which is good. As a Christian, I like that kind of message. Maybe not how it was executed. It's a little weird. It's a little bizarre. If you've watched this episode, you can't read it, but if you've watched this episode, you probably know how bizarre it gets. I can't spoil that for you because, of course, my review is a spoiler-free review, like my reviews always are, unless I say otherwise. it gets real weird. Real weird real quick. She gets into a business meeting thing with Carl, the little figure we've seen throughout this. And he decides to get her into a deal with him to sell lemonade. And again, it kind of becomes a greed tale. I'm with it until that point, and then it goes a whole new direction with the lemonade stand thing. And it gets real weird. That last 5 or 6 minutes of this episode, that's like 20 minutes long, it's a lot. It's a lot, man. It's not like anything you've seen from Goosebumps. It's goofy, and it has a good pace to the episode, and I like the girl who plays Jessica, or whatever her name is. But it just gets too weird, and I don't know. It doesn't feel like Stein. It doesn't feel like it's based on a Stein thing. And again, I know there's a lot of Goosebumps episodes out there that I've reviewed myself and really trashed a lot. I know it's not a perfect show. But this is a great example of one episode that just really, really, really misses the mark in a lot of ways. And it's kind of sad, frankly, that it went that direction. Because I was really hoping for the last 3 episodes to really pull through, especially with William Fruit being here, having a really solid budget. I don't know about episodes 2 and 3. I think one of them is about baseball, if not both of them. I'm already put off by that. I don't care about baseball. It sucks. I'm not a sports guy anyway. I love hockey. That's about it. But I'm already kind of put off by that, because that would have to be the last 2 episodes of the show that I would ever get to watch before this new Disney Plus crap. Anyway, I'm not thrilled about this episode, if you can tell already. I was hoping for more. It started out solid, really solid. I was very invested. I like the Jessica character. I like the message of it. But man, the execution of that message, like I said, it just ruins it. There's one particular thing of CGI that's really awful. There's also a perspective thing that happens with the camera work, where basically they didn't get the right shot that they thought they should have used for a certain angle. So then they basically had a regular old shot, and then they had like a forefront picture like right here to look like a different type of angle. I don't know how to explain it better, but when you see it, you will never unsee it, is what I'm trying to say. It looks so unnatural. The angles, the lighting of all the stuff you're looking at certain shots, you know. It can look like trash, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know what happened here. I don't blame William Fruit. I kind of blame the writers for trying something new, but I kind of don't, because that's kind of admirable. You know, this was a very, very big children's property. Why you would choose to deviate away from it and try to do something different with a solid budget, not a poor low budget like a lot of bad episodes have. But you try to do something solid with a solid budget, and it just fell flat completely. Now I'm worried about part 2 and part 3. I'm not looking forward to talking about them, really, or even watching them for that matter. I am and I'm not. The baseball thing, I don't care. Who cares about baseball? Anyway, so Chillogy Part 1, Squeal of Fortune. Very funny pun. It's a big old miss for me, dog. As Randy Jackson would say. I am not thrilled with this. I think it's a very big miss. I think it's a mess also. Should have taken the cue from the Monster Blood 3 cover. Not thrilled with it. Anyway, if I had to rate the episode, Chillogy Part 1 on a 5-star basis, it had its moments, but man, it falls apart. I'm going to give it like a 3 out of 5 stars. That might even be worse one day in the future if I ever go back and like do a commentary like I recently did for Not a Living Dummy 3's episode for the 25th anniversary. I don't know, but I'm not thrilled. That's all I have to say. I have 2 more episodes to review tonight. I might just wait till like tomorrow or something, or sometime this weekend, to do the original 62 book series ranking and the cover ranking for that as well. But I'm going to give it some time because I have a lot to talk about tonight. I have a feeling these reviews are going to drag on because of how rough these episodes are. I just have a feeling. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Chillogy Part 1 or the entire Chillogy? Put all that down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it. Thank you for watching, guys. God bless you. I'll see you in Part 2 and Part 3, God willing, tonight. And goodbye.